Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. Today's session, we're going to be talking about how you get back into cycling after a layoff. And the reason I decided to do this topic is because you all know with the holidays and everything that's going on, you travel, you hang out with family, all the festivities. There's a tendency to kind of get off your schedule. So wanted to talk about how you get back into it without overdoing it. So that's pretty important to everybody because it's not very easy being motivated all the time to get out on the bike. And we're actually living it because this week we basically, like for me, I didn't get on the bike since Sunday. So tomorrow will be the first day I get on the bike. So we're not even doing a group ride. Paul and I are just going to roll. And we'll film, we'll get some shots for you all because what I'm talking about today, I'm going to actually show tomorrow. Hey, Flash. Jeffrey, welcome. So I'm actually going to show how you get back because I've been off since Sunday. Robert Tangler, welcome. So basically, the first thing you want to do is to talk about before you get back. Let's say I've just been off since Sunday. Some people have been off for a few months or longer. What I use to motivate me is the first thing I do is get your bike and clean it. There's nothing like a clean bike to make you want to get out there. So get your bike, if the tubes are dirty, if you don't want to do a full wash, get a damp rag with a little bit of soap or whatever you want to use, just more and wipe the tubes down, clean your chain, lube it. When you look at that bike, it will get you pumped up to get out there. But once you do get out there, don't worry about what you used to do. Don't worry about speed, distance, all that stuff. Look at how much time you have. And I use time a lot more than I do distance. So look at the fact, I only got 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Just head out. Don't even, if you don't want to even put a computer on the bike, that's cool. Big Star, welcome from the land down under. Just get on the bike. Don't worry about speed, distance, or anything. And just get on your bike and get out there and take in the sights. Cycling is a very good sport for keeping you healthy. So whatever bike you have, gravel bike, road bike, doesn't matter. And in fact, this is a great time to check out neighborhoods you've seen in your area that you haven't been to. Just get on your bike, go visit new roads, new trails. Don't go on necessarily the same route you're comfortable with. Find a new route and just sightsee. Just get out there and spin. Put in a little gear like a 3917, middle of the cogs in the back. And just keep your legs turning. Don't worry about cadence or anything. Just get on the bike for 30 minutes or more, however much time you have. And you will find you will enjoy it. You won't be putting any pressure on yourself because if you've been off for a while, it doesn't really matter what you did last season. You're starting from scratch. So don't go with a group. You can ride with your close friend or ride by yourself. It's a good time to do a solo ride or go with somebody who just wants to go out and you're not really trying to race anybody. So it's kind of, it's something for you to keep in mind. So for us, I've been off since Sunday. And so we're not going to go with the group. There are several reasons we're not doing the group this week. First of all, we want to do our own thing because we're starting a new season. This has been like a rest week per se. And so tomorrow's ride, you just want to go and do whatever your body feels like doing. And when Paul and I ride, we communicate. So we go out, we actually use the ride to catch up. So we're chatting. So go out on a conversational tune. Your first few rides, if you're riding with someone, should be conversational. Like I said, taking a neighborhood nearby where they're building new houses or an area you haven't checked out, go there and just visit. It's a good time to ride with your wife or significant other and just get outside and take in the fresh air. Do that for the first few rides. And before you know it, you will start feeling antsy to ramp it up a little bit. But usually the first week is just about getting what I call base miles in. Actually, the first month. But the first week, you don't want to worry about stats. Just focus on how much time your body's out there. I like to track time because then you can know if you're getting too tired, maybe the ride was too long or so forth and so on. I don't like to use distance per se because if you're going into the wind will slow you down. You could take 2 hours to do, say, 30 miles if you're going into a headwind. So I don't really like to base everything on distance. I just do, we get a lot of questions when we ride with Team RR. Oh, how far are you guys going? And I always just say at least 6 hours. That's all I say, because I don't know what distance we'll cover. If we go to Richards, they got a lot of 8-9% climbs, chip seal, wind when we're coming back. It slows us down. So I don't worry about how much. You guys see our route on Strava. Sometimes we'll ride and it's like 97 miles. And we didn't worry about making it to 100, because that's not our goal. Our goal was just to get out for at least 6 hours, and we're having fun. Wherever the hours fall, we're done when we get back. We don't care about the distance, whether it's 100 or more, because that's not our goal. So getting back into it, don't think about it. In fact, if you don't want to put a computer on your bike, that's great. Just go out, take a watch or whatever, so you know how long you're out there, and just loosen up. Don't put pressure on yourself. It's the pressure that makes it harder to get out there when you've been off for a while. Just get out and sightsee. Use the bike to transport yourself and enjoy the freedom of being out there. So if you've had a lot of time off, the first month or so, you want to make sure that you take it easy. It's best, actually, if you can get a training plan, that will be even good, because then you can follow that structure that will give you 4 to 6 weeks of really building a base before you start kicking it up. And in fact, the funny thing about cycling or any kind of physical activity, when you start and you start slowly, you will know when you want to start edging it up. You will get antsy, because as you do these steadier rides, you'll start feeling really good. After a few weeks, your body will be like, oh yeah, it's good to be back in the swing of things. But I also want to add that it's very important when you start that you do cross training, meaning push-ups, calisthenics, stretching, whatever else, because you've been off for a while, and so you want to strengthen your entire body. Okay, if you have access to a gym, that's a good time to go and do some general conditioning. You're not going to be doing Mr. Olympia or Mrs. Olympia or whatever. You're just going in to get your body moving. You want to strengthen the shoulders and the different joints. If you don't have access to a gym with weights, do military style exercises, push up, sit ups, those kind of things to strengthen your body. But definitely stretch after each ride, because it will help your recovery. Okay, so you need to make sure that you listen to your body, listen to any little aches and things that might come up. It's also a good time to make sure your bike fits you well, because you've been off for a while. It's a good time to use chamois cream, because you haven't been sitting on the bike. It's kind of like, I play the guitar. So when I haven't played in a while, it takes a few tries on there, several sessions, to build my calluses back on the tip of my fingers. It's the same thing with cycling. To harden your rear and get that tissue used to being back on the saddle, you have to ride a few rides. The first few times I feel a little achy, but after 2 or 3 rides, as you feel good if your fit is right. But you've got to also listen to all of that. So that's when you use a little bit of chamois cream to kind of ease back into it. But everything you do should be easy and be for fun. Don't set crazy goals. Your goal should be, I just want to get out there and get some fresh air. At least the first week, just get out there, do your own thing. So tomorrow we're going to be doing our own thing. We'll take some clips for you all, but we're doing our own thing. We're avoiding the group. Groups have their issues. They have dramas. You go to a group and then somebody will have a flat, then you got to wait and all of that. So we don't have to do all of that. We're just going to head out tomorrow. We're going to do our usual number of hours, but we're going to drop the intensity and just chat and mix it up. We mix it up. Sometimes we'll pick it up a little bit depending on how we feel. We've only been off since Sunday, so it's not a whole, long time, but some people have been off longer. So with the holidays and everything, if you've been off several months, listen to your body on which gearing you can handle in that situation. Don't try to go and force yourself to carry a larger gear into the wind or up the hill. Don't worry about maintaining any particular speed. Just go out and keep your cadence within your normal range. That's a good way to get back in. And then set some goals. If you've got like a group you'd like to ride with, maybe in 2 months, use that as a goal to get you out the door, so you can build your base to get fit enough to where when you do hook up with that group in a couple of months, you'll be able to sit in comfortably. And the reason I'm bringing that up is it helps to have a goal. If you've got an event coming up, this time with COVID going on, we don't have any scheduled rides or even races or anything scheduled. So we don't really have anything that gets us out the door. I just like riding my bike. So that gets me out. It clears my head. I like being outside. So that's my main motivation. So you have to find something that makes you get out the door. I always say, keep the doctors fired. That's my motivation. My family has a history of high blood pressure. I stay fit, so I don't have to take any high blood pressure pills or whatever. I'm very fit and I'm very healthy because of my level of activity. And that's just the way to fend off sedentary illnesses. So find your thing that gets you out the door and use that to help you, because it's not easy getting out. Sometimes like tomorrow it's going to be cold. It's going to be like 34 Fahrenheit in the morning, which is probably around 2 Celsius, or even it's pretty close to like 1.5 to 2. That's cold. It's going to warm up not much, maybe 11 Celsius by the time we're done. We're talking 50-ish, Fahrenheit. So it's going to be a cold day. So we're going to be wearing tights and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. We've ridden in colder weather, but sometimes you're not tempted to go out. And if you haven't gone out much, you're like, man, that's too cold. That's okay. If you have a trainer, put your bike on there, watch your favorite program. Put your bike on there for 30 minutes. You don't need to set no time record. Just get on there and loosen up. Put your bike there as a way to say, okay, let me see how this bike feels. Let me see how my saddle feels. Do that. So find different things that can help you get out the door. That's the process I'm trying to throw out there, because it's not the same thing for everybody. Even if you have an event, it takes a lot to really gear up for it, unless the event is really important to you. And since we don't have events right now, use a group that you would like to get with in a month or two, and use that as a goal, and then get out the door. Or use somebody you want to ride with, your mate who's faster than you. So I want to be able to sit on his wheel or her wheel comfortably. So let me get out, or let me get on the trainer. Try to ride frequently. Start with 2 to 3 times a week if you've been off, and build up from there. But don't overdo it. You don't have to ride every day. You have a life. If something's going on, you can't ride. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Just ride when you can, but try to ride often. That's more important than trying to pack it in at once. All right, let's see what some of the comments are on here. Hey, my brother's here, Paul. Welcome. Melanin in Asia said, I can't wait to get back on my bike. It's been 6 months. I dislocated my shoulder. Sorry to hear that. If you have an indoor trainer, like I said, Melanin, put your bike on the indoor trainer, because then you don't have that pounding that you get when you go outside. When I used to compete, I hurt my shoulder as well. It was this one. And within about maybe a few days, I was able to get on the trainer. Dislocated the front, and they just pushed it back in. I didn't have to have surgery, but it was weak to the point where if you tried to even take your shirt off, it would come out. And so I had to have my arm in a sling all the time. And it wasn't fun riding on the road, because you could feel the vibration. And plus, you don't want to hold a bar. And so I used the indoor trainer. So start with your indoor trainer. That way you don't lose a whole lot of time. You can just sit on there and spin. If you don't have one, save up and get one. I think they're great to have. I think every serious cyclist should have one. Simonson 77 from British Columbia. Welcome. Stephen de Havilland from the UK. So Jeffrey says, I've been going out with new riders on short ride, essentially resting on the bike. Yeah, go out, go out with your wife or your significant other. If they have a bike and you want to ride with them, that's fine. That's also good. Sometimes I'll take my daughters out and just spin. With them, their bikes are so small, they're single speed. You don't really get even to break a sweat, but you're just out hanging. It's just good to get out. It motivates you. It helps to have someone else to ride with. That's another motivating factor, because if you have an appointment with your mate to go ride, that helps get you out the door also. So James Solomon says, stumble across your videos from Richmond, Texas. Yeah, Richmond, that's southwest of here. We used to ride out there a long time ago. I used to live in Alief, Texas, and we used to ride out behind the West Oaks Mall that have a lot of little back roads that would take us out to Richmond. you know. But yeah, mostly flat out there, you know. Robert Tangler says, looking forward to this exclusive Veloharmony ride video, great learning opportunity. Yeah, the video I plan on doing, I mean, Paul and I are going to create something, but really what I want to just show is, yeah, we've been off for a while, and just kind of say, okay, this is how you want to go about it. What pace are we doing? What's driving it? It would be a good video to use to learn, because there's a tendency to think about what you were doing the last time you were really fit when you've been off and you get back on the bike and you want to get there right away. And that can set you back. So you have to have the self-discipline to pull yourself back in. And there are times when it's best not to ride with a group. And and sometimes you get tired of the group. Sometimes it's like you just want to be by yourself. There are times when you just want to ride alone or ride with your friend. Just the two of you, you can come up with your own little route. And it just, when I ride with Paul, it's more efficient. We don't waste a lot of time. We get in there and we'll do 7 hours and 20 minutes, and we've been riding for 6:15, something like that. We don't waste a lot of time. We stop only when absolutely necessary. And Melanie said she just loves riding. Yeah, I just love riding my bicycle. That's it. And that's why I don't like other road users. I don't let other road users ruin my day. It's not worth it. When they act like jerks, try to restrain yourself, count to 10 or however long it takes you to stay calm before you react. So, as long as they don't harm you, let it go. Don't let them ruin. Don't carry that memory, because you think about it, most road users will pass you with no incidents. The one jerk that you end up remembering. So don't do that. I've already trained myself not to do that. Don't carry that with you. Go on and enjoy your ride. That's the best thing you can do. You're always going to have people who don't pay attention. So we put lights on the bike and we do our best to say that's all you can do. But I love riding my bike too much to let other things stop me. The reason I'm mentioning that is that's one of the things that stop people from getting out there. Just if they get hassled by other road users, then it stays on their mind. They're like, I don't know if I want to deal with that or whatever. Don't let that stop you. You just have to ride somewhat. You have to ride defensively and offensively. Sometimes you have to take the road. Especially close to where I live, I take the road because there are more drivers going by me near my home than when we get further out there. We have more issues closer to home. And I shouldn't say more issues than we have more chances of incidents occurring closer to home. We don't have issues all the time. So what we do when we're closer to home, like when we're filming on West Rayford while we're going to Creekside and all of that, we take the road when necessary. We don't assume that because there's a tendency because you're close to home, you can relax a little bit. We don't do that. We relax when we're further out because you get a car now and then. And most of the time, they give you lots of room out there. And I think it's because there's less density of people. So first of all, they don't seem to be in a rush out there. Whereas in town, think about it. Everybody's rushing to the store or whatever else. So that's why you have to keep on your mind and just realize that they're rushing. So don't let it get to you. Take the road when you need to, signal, do whatever, and just get on with it. But don't let that deter you from going and getting your ride in. I brought that up because that's always on all of our minds as we get ready to go ride, all the stuff you got to deal with out there. But you got to look at it as it's part of being out there and take it on like a challenge per se, because it's not a negative thing per se. I look forward to using the road properly and communicating with the other road users. And 99.9% of the time, I don't have any problems. So it's not frequent, it's not often, but there's a tendency as people, we end up remembering the exceptions. So just know that you have to ride responsibly so they can take you seriously. You can't be blowing stop signs and all of that indiscriminately. And then you become like the other guy. So, let's see here. Dwayne Randolph said, that's my motto for 2021, keep those doctors fired. Yeah, it's just, I hate waiting in doctors' offices. I used to go often with my wife because, women see the doctor for a little hangnail. We're really bad in that we wait till we have emergencies to go to the doctor. The women go often. So a lot of times I would go with my wife. You'd wait in the waiting room, and then they take you from the big waiting room to a smaller waiting room. So you wait, and then you deal with the nurse or wherever, because it's like just a doctor's office per se. Then you see the doctor for what? Maybe a minute or two, and you get a $80 bill. Wait a minute, I'm in the wrong business. Anyway, let's see here. It's Melanie says it's -6. Where are you in Asia, Melody? Let us know. Asia is a huge continent. -6, yeah, that's cold. I mean, you know, even 2 Celsius. Yeah, I was talking about it in the last ride. It's on tape. I said 2 C is cold. I don't care. Especially for us here in Southeast Texas, we have a high humidity, and we have thin bloods because it goes up. You know, we'll go like 20 C or 25 C, and then the next day, boom, it drops. So you never really adjust. You know, so no, I don't play with the cold. I wear enough stuff to wear. And Mixter says 37 Celsius. Yeah, that's hot. That's 98.6. Yeah, well, Australia is the summer there. That's what it is, the land down under. It's summer for you guys. We get that here in July, maybe. Well, we don't get the 98 that often, but every now and then. In the past, sometimes we'll have like a whole month of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, our summer is June, well, let's say mid-May to, well, I'm trying to see when the weather really changes. Officially, it's like I think summer starts June 22nd officially, and then it goes to September. I think fall is like September 22nd. So June, July, August is like supposedly our hottest month, but it can vary. But we have a lot of humidity, so in the summer here, it is sticky. That's why we wear those lightweight jerseys, because you just get a lot of perspiration. You walk into your garage and you just start sweating. So it can be 93 Fahrenheit and feel like 106 or something like that. You know. Dwayne said it'll be 49 degrees at the start of my ride, 8 a.m. in Ontario, California. Yeah. Well, you guys out there, you probably have a lot of changes. If you go inland, it probably heats up. California, I visited San Diego, and on the coast, it will be cooler, and then you go in, and then it gets hotter as you go in, so it varies. So out there, you need to definitely be able to shed. Melvin said, yes, I do have and use my indoor trainer. Cool. Yeah. So I'm doing more stretching now just for flexibility, making sure I keep my lower back loose, because when you ride often, especially in rolling terrain or hilly terrain, you use the muscles in your lower back, and sometimes they can ache. My ache is usually on the left side. I don't know why. The right never aches. So I guess because I'm right dominant or whatever the reason. But when I stretch often, I don't have problems. So I make sure that I don't use very heavy gears when I'm seated, because that's when it really strains your muscles in your back. The Adventures of Captain Cooper. That's a heck of a name there. He said, I noticed you spent a lot of time in Zone 1 during your long ride. Is there a benefit of going easier than keeping things in Zone 2 the entire time for the entire 6 hours? I don't intentionally spend time in Zone 1. It's just that I'm so fit that when we're riding, we're riding rolling terrain. So when we're riding, when the road drops, your effort's gonna drop. So when I'm riding with my mate or even in a group, I don't really watch the zones that closely. I just ride, But I don't particularly worry about whether I'm in Zone 1 versus Zone 2. 1 and 2 are close enough. They're working. The results are similar. Now, there are times when I'm pressed for time. I might stay at the top of Zone 2 on a shorter ride. But if I'm riding 6 hours, I don't worry about it. I just ride at conversational pace. My conversational pace now goes well into Zone 3, the sweet spot. I can still talk comfortably. So I focus more this time of year on just making sure I'm staying aerobic. So whether it comes from Zone 1 or whatever, because I want to build capillary so that when I really go fast, it will be very fast and have length, endurance. So you can't get too crazy about, I got to be exactly here. You drive yourself nuts. Find a range for each ride. So my endurance range is from 1 to 3. But I don't spend a lot of time in 3 because that's like average, it's like tempo. but it takes a lot of work to get me even to the top of zone 2. I can sit in the group and be in zone 1. So a lot of times I'm in zone 1. So when Paul and I are riding, when he takes a pull and I get behind him, my heart rate drops to like zone 1. But when I get to the front, I watch it then. If it's just Paul and I make sure I stay at the top of zone 2 so that he's in zone 2 as well, and we're moving because it's just the two of us. So yeah, I don't worry about it. You can't get too crazy about it. Now, if you're getting ready for a race and you're ready to peak, that's when you start getting really particular about, okay, I got to spend this much time in there. This time of year, I'm just going and doing base training. So for 6 hours, I'm going to ride a conversational pace. I don't look at heart rate during the rides. It's just recorded. I don't spend a lot of time looking at it. I'm actually enjoying the sights. Now, if I were training for, let's say, an event and I needed to be in zone 4, I would make sure that during the work periods, I would be focusing on being in zone 4. But I don't care whether I'm recovering in zone 1 or zone 2, if that makes sense. They're the same range per se, because that's the 6-hour ride. Now, on a day where I'm tired and I need to recover and I choose to ride, then I make sure I stay in zone 1. Even then, sometimes it might go over, but as long as you're not spending a lot of time in zone 2, because the emphasis of that ride would be recovery. The 6-hour ride is not about recovery. So if I stay in zone 2, when we come to hills, we'll even hit zone 4 because we work those hills. So when we do those rides, it may average zone 1, but remember, the heart rate is not what's pedaling the bike. The heart rate can say zone 1. My power meter, since I got that power meter, when I look at power, and sometimes I'll be in zone 1 with a heart rate, and I'm doing 250, 300 watts for the short period that I'm still in zone 1. By the time the heart rate catches up, the effort's over. So that's the thing. You can't get too hung up on heart rate, because you can work hard for a short period of time and hit like 3 or 4 watts per kilo, but your heart rate hasn't caught up yet. It's still in zone 1, especially when you're fit. It takes more work before it catches up. The good thing about that is when you're riding with people who are going fast for long periods of time, you have more range to play with the gearing, because if I'm in zone 1 aerobically, I can spin more if I choose to, save my legs. Then when my heart rate starts climbing, I shift up. So there's a lot. Training is very complicated. There's a lot you can do with it to play with it. That's the reason we ride as much as we do. So I've got a huge zone 1 and zone 2. So my base zone is huge enough to where we'll be riding fast and I'm still in zone 2. And the other people are at the threshold or whatever. So I have more to play with. And not just me. That's what training is about. Robert Tangler asked a question about that, and I answered letting him know that, yes, the sweet spot will change and all of that. So every 90 days or so, I do another threshold test to make sure what my zones are. They're not going to change dramatically, but what will happen is you'll start finding that if you were hitting your red line at 175, you might be hitting your red line at 177 or 180 now. And sometimes I don't even bother retesting, because you can tell when you're riding hard, But the reason that you want to train enough to be fit for hard events is that so that you have to work harder before you hit your red line. So that means you have a wider range, so that when people start going fast, you don't blow. You can still work. You can that's why you can see some riders can get to the front, take a strong pull, get out, get right back in line and go back and just continue to work, because they're recovering so quickly because they're so fit. You've probably been riding where as soon as you start to coast, your heart rate drops. And I explained that we don't wait at lights, we'll turn right just to I do that to keep my heart rate up. So yeah, if I were watching that's closely, I would go crazy, because it doesn't take much for me to get back to zone 1 as soon as I coast or stop at a light or something like that. So don't worry too much about it. Just make sure that your average for that work period meets what you're trying to accomplish that day. So it may look like we're spending a lot of time in zone 1, but what ends up happening when we do hit the higher zones, we're going very hard, especially when we hook up with Team RR. And this time of year, I don't want to spend too much time in zone 4. It's too early for that. So I want to build a big enough engine so that come spring, when I go hard, it will be just really fast. That's the way you have to look at it. Let's see here. The Bluetooth mirror is fantastic. This is TV. I can now see what I was missing. I rest my case. Pardon the pun. Will not ride again without it. Thanks for advising. I'm sure learning a lot. I have finally been able to put the Bluetooth mirror on every one of my bikes. And my brother Paul is going to do the same thing gradually. They're harder to find because for some reason, a lot of people got them here. When I put the link on there for Rene Hurst, they're sold out. And it's not just because of us. It had been sold out when I came across it because they had just restocked. So this mirror is very popular. And I was able to find it at Velo Duo, I mentioned, somewhere in the UK. I was able to get a copy from them. And I put that on it. So on the Colnago, I put the one that has the chrome. Not chrome. It's like, what's the design? Cork. They have a cork design on the one that has two plugs. And the difference between the two mirrors are like $3 when I priced it, between the one that has two plugs and the one that has one. The one that has two plugs is very fancy. They give you an extra plug for the bar that has no mirror. And then this one has a design, a leather insert. One of them's black, and I think one of them's kind of tan, and then one is cork. So I got the cork for the Colnago. You know, it's old school stuff. And the mirror is small, but once you set it, what I do is I snug it on there once I get it installed. Then I ride, and I set it. And when I'm happy with it, you come back and hold it. It uses a 2mm Allen key. You hold it and then tighten it a little more. You don't want to go too crazy with it. All that does is it lets it resist little bumps. If you have a bump against it, it don't move very easily. You can still move it, but if you forget to snug it, then it moves easier. So I leave it to where it can move very easily initially, get it set, and then that's what it tells you in the instructions. But once you set them, for the most part, unless you really hit it substantially, they hold their position to where every ride is just in place, and you see everything back there. I personally I'm kicking myself. I should have gotten this 30 years ago, or a mirror 30 years ago, because they work. And you really get to regulate, you keep your eye on the traffic, and you're not watching it all the time. It's just like when you drive your car. So when you need a glance, there's no more need to turn around all the time. Every now and then I do. But then you can just glance, and you just move your eyes while you're still looking forward. You glance down, you can spot check, then you know when to move. So now, what I found with the mirror is that I don't lose the few seconds you would lose when you look behind to make a left turn sometimes, then the car is closer. With the mirror, you can see them and initially take your move and make your move so you don't lose that timing. And it's nice to know what's coming up. You can see early whether they're going to change lanes or do whatever. So I find myself using more and more of the road. As a result, this time of year, that's going to minimize my chances of getting a puncture. Because when it rains, we get a lot of debris and stuff like that, especially when it's wet. You know, we ride rain or shine. So no, I'm in love with that. I love it. It works. Tony Baca says, thanks to you and the advice you provide, I was able to complete the Rafa Festive 500 for the first time. I haven't been on the bike since Christmas Eve, so today's topic is very relevant. I can relate. The Rafa Festive 500 takes a lot out of you, especially if it's your first time. But that's cool that you haven't been on the bike. You did a big ride. Your body will not forget that. Since Christmas Eve, you've been off. So now what you want to do is your first ride just needs to be easy. Forget the computers. Just go out. However much time you have. Take in the sights. Spin a little gear. Whatever's easy for you, whatever gear you can handle. Just ride easily. Treat it like a Zone 1 ride. Zone 1, Zone 2. That's all you need to do. Just go out and be on the bike. It will come back to you. It'll take a few days. Usually in the first week. By the end of the first week, you will feel like you're back into the swing of things. It doesn't take long. You haven't been off that long, but just get out there or get on the train or whatever. The hardest ride when you've been off is the first ride. And after that, you're back. That's why I tell everybody, clean your bike. Clean the bike, clean the chain, lube it. That'll get you out the door. Or make an appointment with a buddy to go ride. That'll get you out the door. John Hill says, does the Power Pod power meter work on a turbo trainer? It is capable, John, but it's kind of a pain because they have a specific setting that you have to turn on if you're going to use it on a power meter, you have to use the Isaac software, and then you can't use it outdoors then until you switch it back with the software. So yes, if you go to their site, you can read up on it, and it'll tell you that it can do that. I personally am not going to turn it on the power pod because I don't use the power meter indoors per se. But yeah, the answer is yes, but I think it will be a pain because you'll have to switch it back to like a road mode, and they have an indoor mode and a road mode, so it's there. But I found it to be very reliable, consistent with what DC Remaker put out in his review. And I'm very thankful that he has that site. I've referenced him a lot of times. It works. And it's very affordable compared to other power meters. I'm glad that they sent a copy. I use it for the group rides. I don't train with power. I mean, it's good if I were competing and I needed to say, okay, I want to stay 400 watts for 5 minutes, that's my goal, then I would use that. But for me, I just go hard because I ride by feel and go as hard as I need to for the length of time. That's what you use a power meter for, to push yourself. And it's more consistent in that you're not dealing with weather conditions. It doesn't matter whether you're in the wind, the watts are the watts. So they're good to have, but I think that a lot of people think that the power meter makes you automatically faster. You still got to do the work. It just gives you feedback. So there are a lot of other tools you could use, but if you can afford a power meter, it really is more efficient to train with if you don't get burned out on it. Because even the pros, I've mentioned before, there are rides where they go on they tape the power setting, especially on the SRM head units, because they can't turn it off. They put black tape on it. They don't want to see it. There are times you just want to go ride like we're talking about now. So yeah, it has a lot of things. I have not tested the indoor mode, but there is one. It's almost like how can I say, it's kind of a tech gizmo per se, but if you follow the instructions, they work. Because I put their software on an older Mac that I have, one of the mid 2011 MacBook Air, which is like pretty old now. I mean, it still works, and it worked flawlessly. So that's what I have the software on. And that's what I use it with. I put the software on there primarily because, John, I only got one speed unit. Long before I got the power meter, I had one speed unit to put on my wheel. It's the Garmin speed unit that you can stick on your wheel. I really didn't use it that much, except when I was on the indoor trainer, I would use it on there. Okay, so it had been sitting. So when I found out that this unit needed a speed unit, I figured I already got one. They sent it. I used the one speed unit. Then I learned that in order for it to switch between bikes automatically, I would need to purchase two additional speed units, one for each of the other bikes. Well, the speed units are what? Maybe $40 or so. I haven't priced them in a while. And since they're not things I use, because GPS calculates my speed normally, that's why the other one was just sitting around, except when I would do indoor training. I decided I was just going to use one speed unit, so I contacted them by email. The support is very good. I've even called them on the phone. And the guy said that to use one speed unit with the power pod, you have to manually tell the power pod, I'm going from bike 1 to bike 2 or whatever. What I've done in the software is I put the bike, like the Colnago, I put the name there, and I put the weight of the Colnago and all the specs related to the Colnago, and then the calibration. So basically what happens is each bike I have has its own calibration. I did a separate calibration ride for each bike and then downloaded it to their software. So it's almost like you have 3 different profiles, but they all have the same speed sensor ID, because I only had one speed sensor for the power pod to mate with to generate power numbers. That's one of the things it uses. So to make a long story short, because I only have one speed sensor, it doesn't know which bike I'm on. So I have to tell it I'm using Colnago today, or I'm using Lighthouse or Kish. If I don't do that, then the numbers are off because it doesn't know which profile to use. And the reason I have to, it takes one click, 5-10 seconds. You connect, you say, I want to use this profile, switch it. So I felt like, hey, I'm not changing it that often on the bikes anyway. And when I do have to change it, I have an extension cord, a USB extension cord, that I just plug it into the unit. I only have to take it off the bike and just switch it. It doesn't take long to do. So it didn't make sense for me to spend another $100 on 2 speed units, and I don't use them that much anyway. So I'm explaining that today. If you're thinking about buying the power pod and you have multiple bikes, if you have different speed units, then it's a lot easier. When you take it off of one bike and you turn it on, it will know that you've switched to another bike because the speed sensor ID of the other one will be unique. And that's what he explained to me. So I lose the ability called automatic switching. Yeah, big deal. And it takes all of connecting and saying, use this profile. 3 clicks, that's it. You get in the software. The software is very easy to use. The software has more going for it than I use it for. It has a lot of analytical stuff in there. If you're really into looking at left leg, right leg, all that kind of stuff, it has all of that. I don't look at that. I only loaded it because I found I would need it to switch profiles. But I'm glad I did, because it allowed me to fine-tune the configuration of each one of my frames, because they're way different. And if you change the wheels and you want to get really down into the tire size and the wheel size, it lets you do all of that. You can put the weight of the bike. If you're using more bottles that day, if you really want to get nitpicky, the software is good to have. But once you set the profiles correctly, you don't have to mess with them. And it just gives you a more accurate number. And then I did the in-depth calibration, which they call out and back. That's what I did for each bike. That really gives you good accuracy. And I've been very happy with it since. The last ride, I learned more about it. That's why I did not have power on that ride. The unit goes to sleep after you get back when you're done using it. Well, like we all know, anything that's sleeping, it uses power even though it's sleeping. And so I had not turned it off. It has a process where you push the button 5 times and it powers off. And that conserves the battery. Well, I left it in sleep mode for like a week because I don't use it during the week. And when I went on the ride that Saturday, it said low battery and it started flashing red and green. That's what was happening in the cold weather. So now that I figured that out, when I come back, what I do is I just push the button 5 times. It gives you different colors and it powers off. Then you don't have to be charging it all the time if you do that. So a bit of a learning curve with it. You know, the documentation is okay, but it doesn't have everything in there. But they have a good forum and they have good support. So I'm very pleased with the product. You know, it's really cool. Let's see here. Stephen de Haviland. I don't have any electronic gizmo. I just ride and use the free elements of Strava to record the route, distance, and time. I have no idea what zones I'm either okay or struggling. That's going to work fine, but if you really want to fine-tune your improvement, you would want to figure out, do a threshold test and maybe use a heart rate monitor at a minimum. But you can ride by feel. You know, you can ride by feel where you say 1 out of 5, I'm going very easy. I'm going 50%. I'm going as hard as I can. You can do that too. That will work. It's not required. It's just nice to have. Especially, I like having it because where we ride, we're up and down all the time. So if I'm going downhill, I like to make sure I can shift up and, you know, keep the effort going, you know, but it's not required. So David Hefferman said, do you recommend pedaling drills? If so, which ones? There's a bunch of pedaling drills I have on the website. I put together some drills. Depends on what you're working on. I got leg speed drills. I've got muscular endurance drills. So it depends on what your goals are. But they're for sale. I built this question has been asked so many times. So everything on the website has been because I've gotten these questions since 2016. I've gotten a lot of questions. People come to the website, send questions and so forth. So I went ahead and built different training documents on there. I think it's like $9 or something. So you can go into let me see if I can find the link here. There is a fitness. Go into the shop and look at the training programs. You'll see the individual training DIY. I have individual workouts, and you can look in there. You will see the different leg workouts. If you want to do leg speed workouts, it's there. The drills really help because then you can focus on what your weakness is and what you want to improve. Simonson 77. Renee Hurst has restocked since you last were getting it from Europe. Mine's in the mail. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, I got all. Yeah, I've got them all for the bike. They're really nice. It's like how you call it, eye candy. It's jewelry for the bike. They're beautiful. They're a work of art. The small one. Okay, what I like about it most, Robert Tangler said that a while back. He saw it on a blue bike. You have to point it out to people. The guys we ride with don't even notice it. You have to point out that you have that mirror. The Rene Hertz is so small. And my brother, Paul, had noticed that with the bigger mirror, every now and then your knee ended up bumping it, inadvertently. Whereas with the Rene Hertz, it's so neat and it just looks cute, but it's away from you, further away, and it works. But at the same time, people around you don't even notice it. Maybe they're just not paying attention or whatever. But what I liked about it is it does not start a conversation. No one has said, "Oh man, you got a mirror," and that kind of stuff. I like that. I like to get stuff that no one notices. On one ride, I had to point to it. I was telling the guy about it. I had to point to it because his name was Dave. He was riding with us, and he kept going across the yellow line and whatever. And I was telling him that, man, you need to pay more attention. I don't know how we got to the topic, but I mentioned my mirror, and he was on the side of the mirror and didn't notice it. So I had to literally point to it. Paul was with me that day. We're in the forest. So the Rene Hertz, the Berthoud mirror, I think his name is Giles Berthoud. The Berthoud mirror just disappears. Unobtrusive, man. It's not even, I love that about it. So I think it's the way to go. So let's see here. Derek Hughes said, the worst thing is it's still sore when you realize you have to work when you get there. All right, let's see here. Jamie Rodriguez, how there? How important is exercise out of cycling, like running and swimming? Jamie, there are different disciplines. Running, you can get a better workout in a shorter time with running, and probably even swimming. Swimming you have to focus because there's more buoyancy in the pool, so you can goof up. But running is more time efficient than cycling. So cycling, you could ride for 3 hours and maybe get the same workout as a 1 hour run, something like that. I'm just using that as a gauge so you get an idea. For me, running doesn't work because when I used to do track, that's how I got into cycling. I would run longer to get fit and I would get shin splints. So I don't run. If you see me running, somebody's chasing me. Period. So yeah, if you want to just do a short workout and you don't have a lot of time, yeah, go for a run. 30-minute run, that's a good workout. But it's not going to transfer over to cycling directly because the specificity is required for these sports. That's the reason why triathletes will do a 5-hour ride. They'll do 100 miles on a bike, then they'll run 20 miles, and then they swim. That's the reason. You have to train for each sport specifically. You can't take the benefits of running and transfer it 100% to cycling because the muscles are used differently. Simonson 77 said, I just checked both single and double bar end mirrors are back in stock, silver, black, and leather. Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Let's see. Jeffrey says, I have 2 different cadence sensors, but I share a speed sensor. Fortunately, the cadence will help it choose the correct profile. By 2, and I don't use the P-power on it much. Yeah, I don't know anything about a power meter on it. Well, I guess it would probably work because a lot of the guys in cyclocross, they use power because it's more intensity per se. Cyclocross, the events are shorter and they're just going hard. It's like a long intervals, just 45 minutes to maybe an hour hard. So Vincent wants to know if I've had pelvic pain from cycling. No, I haven't. I've had some crashes, but I was fortunate to not injure my pelvis or anything. So if you're having pelvic pain, something else may be causing it. It could be your fit, or maybe you have another issue that pre-existing issue, but you shouldn't be experiencing any pain. Any pain when you're cycling or any sport you're doing, you need to look into it. Vincent wants to know if I've used the Bumbrigger Dual Trap S. I don't even know what that is. Let's pull that up. Let's see. Dual trap ads. I like to learn new things. I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. Let me use another browser here on this screen. Bountrigger, I believe, is made by Trek. Let's see. It's over here. They make some nice stuff. I got a couple of their lights. The what do we call it? The RT. And I like the profile. It's like an ice cube on the bike. They're cute, and it worked well. So we have so many choices now. Let's see what this is. Bontrager. Bontrager dual trap. That's a digital sensor. I see what you're talking about. That thing looks huge. What is that? $70 at the bike barn. Digital sensor. It looks huge. It's got speed and cadence. Oh, it's kind of huge. I'm not sure what that is. Be careful if you're planning on getting the power pod. Be careful which speed sensor you get. They have suggestions on their site for which ones they've tested, because that's one of the reasons people have problems with the power pod. There are certain sensors out there that are not strong enough for it to pick up. It works well. They've tested it with the Garmin's and maybe the Wahoo, and then they have some other brand that they sell, like if you don't have one. So I don't know if you got it because you brought that up because we're talking about the power pod. But that's one thing to look at. You got to be real specific. If you get what they recommend, you won't have any problems with them. But this dual trap looks huge. Maybe it's just a big picture of it, I guess. But no, I am not familiar with it. I've not used it. I use a Garmin head unit. I have the 1000. In the past, I used the 800 before. I used it for many years, and then I got the 1000 because the font is bigger. It was easier to see the words. So Jeffrey said he has Wahoo sensor, so yeah, they work with Wahoo. So a lot of times when you get a product, it's always good to start with what the manufacturer recommends, so you don't have headaches. Because I read a lot of negative comments about the power pod being finicky, it didn't work or whatever. My only challenge when I made the video, you guys saw that. My challenge was there were some little issues when I was setting it up. It wasn't perfect, but think about it. Even a computer, sometimes you click on a browser, it doesn't load. Then you click again, then it loads. It was something like that, where the light was supposed to blink a certain number of times when I was configuring, and I just went back and did it, and it ended up working. So yeah, you're gonna run, but I wouldn't give a product a negative review because of that. What I have found is there's a bit of a learning curve in that. I did a ride one time, Paul was with me, and I was doing a config ride early. And after I did a config ride, I started the unit when we met Team RR. Well, it corrupted the file that goes to Strava. Strava rejected the file. It would not accept the file. So I had to manually edit that file and take out the config ride for the power pod before Strava accepted the rest of my ride. So I learned from that when I'm configuring the power pod for any reason, this was when I was just getting it set up on each bike. If you're configuring it, configure it before you do your ride if you're going to load it to Strava. But what's weird is sometimes it would get accepted by Strava. So go figure, even if you did a config ride in there, because there's something about the file. Because when you config, it creates a separate file that it sends to the software when you do choose to download. In other words, it stores your configuration data on that unit. And you can download it to the software and keep it there. You can make changes and then send it back to the unit. That's what's great about having that software. So I started with a config file, downloaded it to the software, got on the Mac, opened it up, then added the weight of the bike and different things after I weighed the bike and everything with the bottles that I was going to use because I really wanted to be spot on. And then uploaded it so that it keeps two copies. You have one on the computer and one on the unit. So you always have a copy of your config if you need to. But basically, the config files are stored on the unit, and then what you can do is to switch and say, I want to use this file, and it basically sends it to the device and say, we're going to be using byte 2 today or whatever. So it just requires you to read. A lot of people don't like to read. So if you're not into that kind of detail, then you want something like those pedal power meters, the way you just, especially I think there's some of them where they're very easy to use. You just mount them and they're ready to go. It's a little finicky, but once you set it up, you push that button in the morning, it gets green, you're ready to go. It's easy to use. I did learn that if you're starting the power pod, make sure your head unit's already on. Because when you turn the head unit on, it looks for the power pod. So if you turn the head unit on, the power pod is off, the head unit won't find the power pod if you don't have the power pod on right away. So when the head unit searches, like the Garmin searches, doesn't find it, it will ignore it. Then you start riding and you're looking for power and you turn on the power pod, then you have to manually go in and pull up the power pod and connect to it. So what I do in the morning when you see us start, as soon as I kick off the head unit, I push the button for the power pod right away. So the Garmin can automatically connect. So I don't have to manually connect the sensor. And it does the same thing with your speed unit. If you start a ride without a speed unit and you choose to use a speed unit later, you have to manually add the speed unit. Because what the Garmin does, it looks for a speed unit if you have it registered in there already. If it does not find one, meaning you didn't spin that wheel, it will ignore the speed unit and use GPS. And I've had that problem because of the power pod. I started the computer one morning, turned on the power pod, but hadn't moved the wheel yet. So the speed sensor had not activated for Garmin to pick up. And once Garmin looked and didn't see the speed sensor, it went to GPS. Well, guess what? When I started to ride, no power data. So I had to go in and manually. And those are the issues people have, but then they don't admit that it's because of those issues they blame the power pod. I just wanted to point that out. All right. Let's see here. D. Jackman. He says, hey, just aside from the topic at hand, I saw the link for Strava, so I just requested to join. Oh, cool. No worries. Let's see here. I got a few requests. I try to do it as quickly as I can, but sometimes the cool thing about it is I can do it from my phone too. I need to find a way to write a script. Strava won't let you load scripts. If it could, I'd write a script to just do the acceptance. Ishmael Al-Katiri from Jakarta, Indonesia. Is that you? Let's see. That's the one I see. No, I don't think so. Let's see. So let's see. I think unless you're using a different name on Strava. All right. Bumbrica computer, yeah. Okay. Gravel here, slow, short. I keep my eyes on the road, rocks, love the changing pace. Yeah, I used to do mountain biking, Jeffrey, and yeah, it requires more attention than the road. And it requires more maintenance on your bike because you're hitting a lot of stuff. The wheels are heavier, so you have to use lower pressure, and that helps. D. Jackman, you just requested to join, but I don't see you on here. Let's see. Are you request to join the club or follow me on Veloharmony? Let's see here. Two different things. It hasn't sent you through yet, which is weird. Usually it's instantaneous. Oh yeah, I see you on here. Okay, you requested to join the club. I see you on here. Sorry about that. I went to the follow. All right, you're good. You're in. Yeah, we've got this club where people load their rides, and you can look at members of the Veloharmony club and see what they did that week. You can see the club leaderboard and so forth. I see Jerry at the top this week. Jerry and Abby, they ride a lot of hours. All right, let's see here. All right, D. Jackman, you're in there. So Jeffrey said, I love having real-time wind speed via the AeroPods. Yeah, I have that on there, but I don't really look at it that much. I put it on one of the fields on my training page, the wind speed stuff. I looked at it one day. It tells you whether you've got negative headwind or positive headwind and how fast the wind is. After a while, this stuff gets to be too much. I'm not sure what wheel set you're talking about. You said, do you have any updates on your new wheel set and tires? What wheel set are you talking about, Jeffrey? I don't have any new wheel set. Are you talking about the ones that are on the Colnago? Let's see here. Okay, the Colnago, yeah, that was not new. Actually, I found that on eBay. It was the Velocity. They work fine. I've got what they call it, the Continental Sprint tires. I mounted on there, and I've been riding it for a while, but I'm not that impressed with the tires. The wheel set is fine. The Continental Sprint tires, I'm not impressed with. Now the Continental Competition tires, that's what's on the orange bike, the one with the carbon wheels. Those competition tires, they both of them have butyl tubes in there. I like the fact that I don't have to air them up all the time. Those ride a lot better than the Sprint tires. But what I found with the Sprint tires, you got to really stretch them before you try to mount them. They're tight, they're hard to mount. You know, like Victoria's are very easy to mount, tubular tires. So yeah, the wheel set's fine. It's hard to find those wheel set. I think American Classic makes them with all, you know, aluminum wheel set, that kind of stuff. They're harder to find now because everything's anodized. So I found those used a while back, and they were in good condition. But yeah, they work fine. I want to wear out the Continental Sprint tires and then go to something softer. They're just very hard, and I'm not enjoying the feedback from the road that much with them. But since it's winter, I'm going to just ride them and get them. Yeah, D Jackman, I found you. I found you in the club. I added you. You're in there. You're in the club. I got you in there. Yeah, the club. We got Jerry and Abby. They're putting in a lot of kilometers. I mean, I don't have that many hours to put on the bike. I just ride when I can, and that's the way you want to look at it. Don't stress over how long you're riding. Focus more on meeting the goals for each ride. You should have a plan before you go out the door. What do I plan to do today? Is this just a ride to sightsee? Focus on that and stay there. That way, when you're out there, that's your goal. Doesn't matter who passes you or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not important. You know. And then there are days when, if you're doing intervals, that's your goal, and you try to accomplish your goals. What we usually do when we do the 6-hour ride, we don't ride at one speed for 6 hours. No way. There are sections of our 6-hour ride. Besides, when we ride with those guys, we're giving them the stick. We're going harder than we go with those guys. That's why we go out to Richards. I don't ride hills slow. We hammer the hills, you know, and we get out of breath, and then we laugh about it because Paul loves the hills. So we get a good workout. You look at the average speed after we're done. So I tell people, don't pay attention to the average speed. It might say we rode 21 kilometers or 22 kilometers an hour. But what it doesn't tell you is that we went up an 8% climb at 24K. And, you know, I mean, we really gave it the stick. You don't see that in average speed, you know. So we go hard when it's necessary. And that's what's important. If you have a plan that says you need to do 3 sets of 20 minutes at zone 4, that's what matters. It doesn't matter how slow you recover between those, because that will bring your average speed down. If you're that attached to it, then you do a lap. When you're ready to start your work interval, you start the lap meter. And then when you're done, you end the lap meter so you can see how fast you went during that interval. But I don't try to track all of that. It doesn't matter. You know, you're going hard enough when it's necessary. You guys see it, boys. When it start playing, we start playing. It's time to go. You got to go. But you have to do that in training too. So we don't worry about it. And this time of year, we're not going to be going super hard. But when you ride in terrain that's challenging and you're feeling good and you come there, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. If it feels good, you just go with it. That's why we go north. So we don't have to think about mentally pushing ourselves. The terrain will do that for you. You know. So that's what gets you out the door. So we're gonna take a different route tomorrow. I want to get us out of town quickly. We're gonna go west, get out of town quickly, and try to do some newer roads with more hills. We got that Spring Branch Road. It got a 9.4% climb on that thing, and it's long. I really like that climb, and it's nicely paved. I thought it was 7. In the video we made the first time we went there, I think it was like late fall. I called it 7.4. I guess I was on the outside. And the next time Paul and I went there, I was closer to the edge of the road. It was 9.4%. And you could feel it. And so when we go to the Springbank Road, we like to go west because that's the toughest direction. That's what we do. We find the hardest way to do these routes. All right, let's see here. Wit and skill, seal bearing versus cage bearing. I don't know as a rider whether it really matters. I mean, it really depends on how technical you want to get. Most of my bikes have, as far as the bottom bracket has seal bearings in them, the Ultra Torque comes with it, but I think the seal bearing requires less maintenance. But really, for the most part, if you keep your bike maintained, it doesn't matter which kind of bearings you have, as long as you don't let dirt infiltrate in there. I think the life is the same. The seal bearing is obviously tougher. That's why they seal it. So the cage bearing just mean to put the balls in those, the old style stuff, but it still lasts. I mean, I'm working on a bike that's 30-something years old, and I opened it up, and the ball bearing looked pretty good. Once I got in there, of course, I had to replace them, which is better since you're already there. But I think you're splitting hairs. But if you're worried about maintenance, then just do seal bearings because they're easier to maintain. There's no balls for you to lose. Let's see here. Sharp iron rod. I've been using Peapod with Wahoo computer and sensors for 1 year. Once I forgot to charge the battery and I had to go through the finicky resetting and calibration. Otherwise, the setup is on point. I don't know why you had to, because like I said last week, I let the thing run out. You may not have the software, that's why. Unless you wiped out your files from the unit, because just because the battery goes out, you shouldn't have to recalibrate. You can always hook it up to but you shouldn't have to. Once you charge it back up, it should remember because it stores it on the unit. The files should be stored there. Unless you you're pushing the button and you got it into calibration mode. That could be what it is, but you shouldn't have had to do that. You shouldn't have had to do that. For what I was explaining earlier before you got here, sharp iron riders, is with the power pod, make sure you push the button 5 times when you stop. Otherwise, when it goes to sleep, it's still using battery power. And if you don't charge it up often, it'll go. I've found that I've gotten like 12, 13 hours out of a charge. So for me, that's like 2 rides on the weekend, let's say. So once the weekend's over, I charge it up and then I push the button 5 times, the color changes and it goes to sleep. So it's off. It goes off, not to sleep. Once it's off, when I turn it on the next time I'm going to use it, it is fully charged. But if you just let it go to sleep, it uses the battery power. So after 4 or 5 days, you need to charge it before you go out. And what I found is just best to use a long USB cord. You get that from Amazon. It's just a few bucks. I'll use a USB cord so I don't have to take it off the bike. Plug it in the back and you're ready to go. They got like the 6-foot USB cord. That's what I use. So most of the time it's on my blue bike. I leave it on there every now and then. If I'm going to use the orange bike, I may switch it on there, but it's easy to get off. A 3mm wrench and it's out. So it fits the bill because I've been looking for something that was easy to switch and low maintenance. And I really like that. And I like the fact that it's not interfering with any setup on my bike. And the way I have it mounted is it's on a combo unit, a Garmin combo unit. I just bought the other piece and put it under my regular Garmin. We got 2 screws that hold them on there. And that's where they go. And most people don't even notice it. I really like that about it. So D. Jackman, looking to purchase my first bike GPS. I've narrowed it down to Garmin's 530, but the 830 is tempting. Aside from that, should I get the speed, cadence, and HRM set? If you're going to get a Garmin, get I don't know if they even make them. I had I had to buy two of the belts. The heart rate belt. You don't need a set per se. Well, I don't know what they're doing now. They used to have this belt called the premium heart rate monitor belt, and it really sucked. It would give you false readings, and after about 30 days or so, it went kaput. I used the older style one that's solid rubber all around here, solid rubber, and then the strap that you use to hold it on you. And I liked it so much. I don't know if they're still making it, but we found an extra one. Paul and I both on eBay, and we got like a backup because they last for years. And all we have to do is change the battery when it goes out, which is not very frequent. I'm saying 18 months or more of use. But for your unit now, the only reason you need a speed sensor is if you're going to ride indoors. If you're not going to ride indoors, the GPS will calculate your speed. I don't use my speed sensor unless I'm using that power meter, which requires it. On all my other bikes, which I don't have the power meter on, I just head out the door. I don't put anything on my wheel. So as a result, the speed sensor will last longer too. I don't have to. Before I got the power meter, I had the speed sensor. I rarely used it. I got it for the indoor trainer. So yeah, if you're going to work out indoors and you want to see speed, then you need the speed sensor. But if you're going to just be outside and you turn on GPS, it's going to work. 530 versus 830, and they got like I guess they got they call it. I got the 1K. I think it's like 1030 now, 1030. I got the larger one because the font was easier to read. Other than that, it's just a form factor. Some people like, I think Mo has the 530. Paulie Longa had the 800, then he switched to the 1K. I like the 1K. It's a good size. You can see it better. But that's just a matter of what you prefer and what deals they've got going. The 530 is kind of small. So if you got really good eyesight, I think it's okay. I mean, I can see it and everything. It's kind of tiny. But I like the size of the 1K because every now and then I would map out routes, and I love to be able to see the map and give you turn-by-turn directions. But those features, I believe, are available on all of them. So it's just a matter of what you prefer. Ivan Patton, welcome. I think Ivan is from New York. Sharp Iron Rider said, yeah, that's what happened. I got a little frustrated and pushed the button too many times. I know better now. Yeah, that's what happens. It can frustrate you because when you want it to work and it's not performing, sometimes you forget, like, oh, because you just wanted to come on. You're like, man, because that morning last week when it was acting, I was like, come on. And then when I got home, then I realized it was my fault that the power was low. I said, come on, because I had not used it the entire week because I don't use it. Just use it for the group ride so you guys can see power numbers. I don't train with it. And so I was like, why is it low? But then it dawned on me when I got back home. Oh, yeah, it was in sleep mode all week. And that's what it was. And once I charged it up, I went out for a ride the Sunday after Paul and I rode, and it was fine. It works really well. So I didn't have to do anything, even though it ran out of power. I just plugged it in. The red light blinked till it charged. It took like a couple hours. It doesn't take too long. And it charged, and it's been fine. So I really like their software. I think everybody who gets it should take the time and set it up on your machine or whatever, because it's good to have. You get to see what's going on in the machine. You get to play with your profile. I like the out and back config. It's more accurate than just the standard one. So let's see. Faustin Sango says, he just retracted his message. I think he was talking about the Garmin 1030. Pick your Garmin based on form factor, because I think the features are the same. But that little one, you might want to maybe do the 830. It's a good enough size. The little one is kind of it's a bit tiny. I like to be able to do more. If I'm going to spend, these things are not cheap. So when I buy them, I use them till it fall apart. I mean, mine has like a little white cover on it now. Piece of the rubber has worn off, so I took silicone and covered the hole. The power button, you push it to turn it on. The rubber wore off because I've had it for so many years. So I added silicone on it, and my brother bought me to have the little cover. The little cover, like a sleeve you can put on it. Paul bought one for me, so now I use that from time to time on there, just to keep it, because I'm going to use it till it falls apart. I don't care what they come up with. Once it's not working anymore, then we'll look at what's out there. So take your time, buy what you like, See, you don't have to be buying anything else. Faustin says Garmin 1030 Advanced Plus now is ANT and Bluetooth compatible. I mostly use ANT. I don't do a lot of Bluetooth stuff, but I guess you could depending on what you have on your bike. So it's nice that they have both. I try to keep these things simple because I don't like to deal with a lot of gadgets. I use my Garmin on my screen. I've got the clock. Then I got time of day. Those are the things I use the most. Clock, time of day. How long I've been riding? How long we've been out here? What time of day is it? Then my cadence. And I don't look at cadence except when I start. Okay, I feel like I'm spinning too much. Why is this uncomfortable? Then I just glance. Okay, what cadence is uncomfortable for me? So that's my reference to say, okay, I got to work on that if I want to spin like that. If I get to 130 and it feels weird, okay, I got to spend more time. That's what I use that for. But for the most part, it's just there. Every now and then, okay, 9 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock, let's turn around. Or we're riding, so okay, we're 3 hours out. It's 10, let's turn around so we can get back. That's what we use that thing for. And I love the grade. I love to see 2%, 4%. And what's funny is we've used it enough to where now I can look at a climb and guess this is a 4%er, and then I look, oh yeah, I was right. That's what I use that for. Because I want to get to where I won't need the computer that much. So I set it to where after 15 seconds, the display goes to sleep. During the daytime, you can see it. Early in the morning, if I need to see it before light, then I leave the display on. And then once daylight comes, then I go back in there and make it go to sleep. Because then you get more battery power out of it. But when it's cold, it doesn't last as long. I've been on a 7-hour ride or so, and then it was fully charged, and it said low battery. What I found with I've got the 1000. When it gives you the low battery warning, usually I have 2 hours left, which is plenty of time. So I like that about it. But usually you get about 9 hours or so, reasonably. And it all depends on what you have tied to it. Some people turn on the Wi-Fi and all the other. It's got a bunch of stuff in there. It will even get you messages. It does all kinds of crazy. I did not turn those on. You guys are having, you know what I'm talking about. I think some of them will even give you text messages or some. Why would I want to get text messages on my head? But it has that ability. I remember that. I just never turned it on. I don't want, when I'm riding, in fact, I put my phone on do not disturb before I put it in my pocket when I'm riding. And the reason I do that is the do not disturb feature on the phone. I really like it because you have people in your favorite list. Those are it will allow those people to contact you. So I've got a short list of people who can contact me when I'm riding. So all the other text messages from Amazon, all these other places, you don't have to be bothered with that. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Let's get ready for the ride tomorrow. So being off since Sunday, I'm just going to get on the bike. We're going to make some clips for you all. We'll show you how you ease back into it. So don't worry about it. It's been off for a while. The first ride is the toughest. After that, it's all downhill. And the wind will always be behind you. All right, guys. You all have a great evening. Jeffrey, you take care. Get out there tomorrow. And he said, Faustin said it's cold here. How cold is it? Where are you, Faustin? Cold is relative. Because it's cold here, too, for us. It's a whopping, 40 degrees? We're spoiled. It's probably below zero where you are. The way you said cold. Yeah, it's cold here too for us, but it's all relative. It's 45 Fahrenheit, so that's 7 Celsius right now. And it's nighttime. It's almost 7 p.m., 6:48. Extreme causes of journey avoid D. Jackman, Maryland. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, if it's below freezing, it's really hard. I found it, I tried one time, a long time ago. I rode towards Tomball many years ago, probably 2016. It was a 32-degree day in the morning, sunny, but just cold. It was a morning where we had what we call hard freeze. And then I put on all this stuff. I had on my Sapasso. I mean, I was geared up. I couldn't get warm. I went out there. It was cold. I barely made 45 minutes. I mean, it was just my face was cold and I had on balaclava. It was just too cold to really ride. And, my hands didn't freeze or anything, but it was just, I was like, man, why am I out here? So that was a day where I only did an hour or so and came back home. And it was a sunny morning. There are sometimes it's just brutally cold, and no matter what you do, you can't warm up, you know. And unless you got a big event coming up, yeah, do a shorter ride or get on the trainer or stretch or go to the gym, go swim in a warm pool, do something different, you know. So that oh, Faustin says it's 37. Yeah, 37 is not that bad because here, 37 with the humidity, it feels colder. But you know, if the roads are clear, fine. But if you got snow, yeah, don't risk it. Maybe you take your mountain bike out. You're not going that. If you have one, you're not going that fast. You can work on this power. Let's see here. Faustin said he got it from Marketplace for $299. That's a good price for that thing. Is that a Garmin 1030? For $299, that's a great price. Those things used to be $500 or $600. I don't know. That's a really good deal. Yeah, that's amazing, man. You sure it's a real product? It's not a copy. You know how they make those purses? They use a different name or they misspell the name. All right, guys. You guys get ready for the rides tomorrow. Get out there, spin. If it's too cold, put the bike on the trainer. You got to keep those doctors off your list. Keep your body moving, okay? You guys be safe out there. We'll get some clips for you.